should you make the decision, oh, you know what? I get it. I am God's device with which it chooses to know itself experientially. If that is the decision you make about yourself and your raison d'etre, if that's the choice you make, every other choice that comes across your path in which you are invited to engage is measured against that particular outcome. That is, when a choice is placed in front of you, whether it's a big choice, like, in fact, who will I marry? Or what will I do for a living? Or where will I live? Or whether it's a small choice, like, what will I have for breakfast this morning? Or what shirt will I wear? Big choice or small, every choice will be measured against the question, does this reflect my idea of divinity? And does this provide God with an experience of itself in the highest way that I can imagine? Yeah, I stopped smoking by asking myself that exact question. I was a smoker who smoked 2.5 packs a day. I smoked a lot, heavily, until I was around, about 25 years ago. But one day, about 25 years ago, I picked up a cigarette, and I was going to have my 23rd cigarette that morning. I was smoking like 2.5 packs a day. There are 20 cigarettes in a pack. I was smoking 40 to 50 cigarettes a day. You know how many cigarettes you have to consume? Now, fair enough, I put a lot of them out halfway down and so forth, but I always had a lit cigarette somewhere around me. And I stopped cold turkey. I mean cold turkey from one day to the next, with no program, no gum, no injection, no stuff. Just I made a decision. I recall the decision vividly. I picked up this cigarette and I said to myself, as I lit my lighter, my trusty Zippo, is this my grandest notion of how divinity chooses to experience itself? By the way, that was even before my conversations with God. And I'm not sure that I actually phrased the question in those exact words. I phrase it that way as I look back on it now. But I remember the moment, I just thought, how I really phrased it is this who I am? Is this who I want to be? A person who literally destroys himself, kills himself with this? And I put it down, and I took the cigarette, and I put it down, and I thought, no, that's not who I am. This is not who I am. Why am I doing this? Well, because you enjoy it so much. I did enjoy smoking. But did I enjoy dying that way? Did I think I would enjoy dying that way? You know what's interesting about that, by the way, for all you smokers out there, you'll enjoy this little anecdote. What's interesting about how the world is set up is, if you commit suicide, you know if you commit suicide, your life insurance will not pay off? Did you know that? Mm-hmm. Most life insurance policies will not pay off. Maybe some do, but most do not. So if you think that your widow or your children are going to get your estate after you kill yourself, if the insurance company discovers that you didn't die of natural causes but actually caused your own death, they will not pay your assigns and heirs their inheritance. Insurance companies do not pay off for killing yourself. They won't let you cash in that way. You can't cash in by cashing out. Unless you do it slowly. If you smoke and kill yourself over 25 years rather than 25 minutes, that's perfectly okay. So what the insurance business tells you is a slow death at your own hand is acceptable, but a rapid death at your own hand is not. That's interesting, isn't it? So if you want to die slowly by eating all the wrong stuff, having red meat at every single solitary meal, 15 cigarettes a day, drinking yourself to oblivion, and all the rest, the insurance company will say, well, that's fine. Go ahead, we can do that. But if you want to kill yourself just, in 12 minutes, just to make it quick and easy and get out, the insurance companies say no, can't do that. It's against the rules. Against the rules to kill yourself rapidly. So we have found a way to kill ourselves slowly by doing things that we know for certain. I mean, there's no question about it. It's not like we didn't know this. By doing things that we know for certain are bad for our health. If not mortally wounding. That's just an aside for all of you smokers at home while you're enjoying your cigarette as you're watching this. Where in the world was I?
For the smokers at home.
This is my grandest notion of how the express.
Yeah, so thank you. So the question then before the House, if you choose to embrace that idea that the reason for life itself is to provide God with a device to experience itself, if you choose to embrace that and say, you know, I'm claiming this as my reason, then that becomes the measuring stick against which you do measure every choice and decision you make. What you eat, what you drink, what you smoke or don't smoke, what you do or don't do. It even gets down to how you talk. It even gets down to the things you say. It even gets down to something as simple as what you wear or don't wear, or how you actually move through the world and how you move through the day. Because ultimately, if you become very, very serious about this, you start to even ask yourself, is the way I move through the day giving God the grandest experience of itself that I can imagine? It's not something you have to be fanatic about, but it certainly can be a fascinating and interesting guideline. I wrote a book a year and a half or two ago called The Only Thing That Matters. And the book begins with an interesting sentence. It says in that book, 98% of the world's people are spending 98% of their time on things that don't matter. Let me repeat that because the impact of that may have just flown right past your ear. 98% of the world's people are spending 98% of their time on things that don't matter. That is, they have nothing to do with the agenda of their soul. So another way that I have phrased the life's essential question, I found about 4 or 5 different ways of phrasing life's essential question. Another way that I phrase life's essential question is, I look at what I'm doing and I ask myself, does this matter? Does this matter given the agenda of my soul? Does this move forward? Does this advance the agenda of my soul? Or is this just, talk about being pointless, just pointless and a waste of time? If it doesn't move forward the agenda of my soul, I want nothing to do with it. I'm not interested. If it moves forward the agenda of my soul, I move into that activity and that experience with gusto, with all the joy and energy at my disposal. Now, something interesting occurs when one does that, at least in my experience. I could be wrong about this, but I'm sharing with you my experience. When I move forward with whatever I'm doing because it serves the agenda of my soul, and when I move forward with that activity with all the gusto and energy at my disposal, life responds to me with all the gusto and energy at its disposal. That is, to put it in simple language, good things start happening almost automatically. It's astonishing how that works. That is, life rewards energy with like energy, I've noticed in my life. But when I was spending my life doing things that don't matter, that had nothing to do with the agenda of my soul, that just had to do with the agenda of my body, survival, or the agenda of my mind, what's next, where's my next treat, where's my next happiness, my next, just what's next, what's the next treat. That was my mind was concerned with that. When's the next When's the next, treat? Where's my treat? Where's my treat? When I was spending my life doing that, it did not always produce outcomes that ultimately generated happy events in my life. In fact, way too much of the time, it produced just exactly the opposite. So I have learned to adjust my activities, the things that I'm allowing myself to do with the days and times of my life, to adjust those activities to more perfectly reflect the agenda of my soul, which is to provide God with an instrument or a device through which it might know itself experientially at the highest level. God is always knowing itself experientially. If you go out and rob a bank, God is knowing itself experientially. So there's no wrong way. Maybe be clear about that. There's no wrong way for God to experience itself experientially, to know itself experientially. There's no wrong way to do that. The question only becomes, is this the highest way you can imagine, conjure, manufacture, or create?